My boss once called an all-hands meeting to announce a new efficiency initiative. His big idea was that to save electricity, we all had to turn our monitors off whenever we got up from our desks, even to go to the bathroom. He then spent the next hour demonstrating how to do it, making every single employee stand up, turn their monitor off, and sit back down. We lost more productivity in that hour than we'd save in a decade. I worked in a small marketing firm. My boss was convinced that SEO, search engine optimization, worked by just repeating a keyword as many times as possible. He made me write a 2,000-word blog post for a client's plumbing website where every other word was leaky faucet. The final article was an unreadable nightmare that read like a broken robot. He was so proud of it and couldn't understand why our search ranking tanked. My manager at a retail store believed that the security tags on clothes were magnetic and would erase people's credit cards if they got too close. She made us keep the register and the card reader a ridiculous 6 feet away from any tagged clothing. Customers had to awkwardly stretch to pay, and we constantly had to explain her bizarre, made-up rule. She called it magnetic safety protocol. We had a major deadline, and my boss wanted to see the final project files. He asked me to fax him the internet link so he could review it. I tried to explain that's not how anything works, but he got angry and accused me of being insubordinate. I ended up just printing the home page of the website, faxing it to his office, and he then complained the buttons weren't working. My former boss at a restaurant was incredibly cheap. He noticed we were going through a lot of black pepper, so he decided to cut the pepper shakers with fine black sand from the craft store next door to make it last longer. He genuinely thought no one would notice. We had a dozen complaints about gritty and crunchy food before the health inspector was thankfully called. I had a boss who thought Alaska was an island next to Hawaii because that's how it's often shown on maps of the United States. During a logistics meeting, he proposed we could save on shipping costs by building a bridge between the two. He had a full presentation ready. The silence in that conference room was deafening until our senior engineer just slowly packed up his laptop and walked out. My boss was trying to write an important email to our biggest client and wanted it to sound sophisticated. He ran every single word through a thesaurus and replaced it with the longest, most obscure synonym he could find. The resulting email was gibberish. It started with "Salutations, esteemed compatriot," and ended with "We anticipate a fortuitous transactional amalgamation." The client called us, completely baffled. At my old office job, the printer broke down. My manager, a man in his 50s, was convinced he could fix it. He unplugged it, laid it on its side, and started talking to it in a calm, soothing voice, telling it to release the paper and that it was a very good printer. He then tried to feed it a clean sheet of paper by hand, thinking it would coax the jammed one out. I worked at a call centre where the boss implemented a no bathroom breaks during peak hours rule. His reasoning was that our bladders would adapt to the new schedule over time. He referred to it as professional bladder conditioning. A formal HR complaint was filed after the first day when 3 people nearly had accidents at their desks. The policy was rescinded the next morning. My boss wanted to improve office morale. Her idea was Mandatory Fun Friday, where for the last hour of the day, she would play the bagpipes in the middle of the office. She was a terrible player. It was an hour of screeching, agonizing noise, while we all had to sit at our desks with forced smiles. Anyone who put on headphones was written up for not being a team player. We were pitching a new software idea to our boss. After our presentation, he looked at us seriously and asked, "But will it work on a calculator?" He wasn't joking. He thought that any software should be compatible with his old Texas Instruments calculator, because it also had a screen and buttons. We spent 20 minutes trying to explain the concept of an operating system to him. My manager at a movie theatre believed the phrase, "the customer is always right," was a literal, unbreakable law. A customer once complained that the movie was too loud and demanded a refund. Instead of just giving the refund, my manager went into the theatre, stopped the film, and made an announcement asking the other 200 patrons to vote on whether the volume was acceptable. I had a boss who was terrified of technology updates. He thought if he updated his computer's software, it would forget all the old information. He was running a version of Windows from 1998 on a brand new machine. Our IT department had to create a special isolated network just for him because his computer was a massive security risk to the entire company. At a team building retreat, my boss decided we were all going to do a trust fall. But instead of falling backward into our arms, he wanted to do it forward off a 5-foot-high stage to show he had forward-thinking trust in us. He face-planted. No one saw it coming because it was such a fundamentally stupid misunderstanding of the exercise. He broke his nose and tried to blame us. My boss read an article that standing desks improve productivity. Instead of buying them, he made our maintenance guy collect all the cinder blocks from a construction site next door. He then had us stack them on our desks to raise our monitors and keyboards. It was wobbly, dangerous, and looked like a post-apocalyptic office. We all went back to sitting within the hour. I worked for a guy who owned a small chain of coffee shops. He was convinced that coffee was naturally sweet and that coffee bean farmers were in a global conspiracy with big sugar to get people addicted. He ordered us to stop adding sugar as an option for customers to break the cycle. Our sales plummeted in a week, and he blamed us for not explaining his conspiracy theory properly to customers. My boss once sent out a company-wide memo detailing a new color-coded system for emails. Red meant urgent, yellow for important, and green for casual. The problem was, he was colorblind. He would constantly mix them up, sending frantic emails about a fantasy football league in bright red, and a critical server failure notification in calm, casual green. During a brutal heatwave, the office air conditioning broke. Instead of calling a repairman, my boss, who was an amateur inventor, tried to fix it himself. His solution involved rerouting the exhaust from the office fridge into the ventilation system. It just blew hot, fish-smelling air everywhere. The office was 100 degrees and smelled like a forgotten lunchbox. My manager insisted on interviewing every single new hire, even for janitorial positions. Her favourite question was, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be and why? She would base her entire hiring decision on the answer. We once lost a brilliant candidate for a senior developer role because he said, "a redwood," and she felt that was too arrogant. I had a boss who thought daylight saving time meant we physically saved the extra hour of daylight in a time bank. He tried to get the payroll department to add 1 extra hour of PTO to everyone's balance every fall. He argued with 3 different HR managers about it, insisting the government was giving us a free hour and the company was stealing it. My boss wanted to create a viral marketing video. His idea was to have me, a graphic designer, dress up in a giant banana costume and just stand on a busy street corner for 8 hours a day, waving at cars. He offered no other context or branding. When I asked what the goal was, he said, people will be like, "Why is there a banana?" And then they'll think of our brand. Our brand sold insurance. We had an office inspection coming up. To make the space look more lively, my boss bought a dozen goldfish and put them in a single tiny bowl on the reception desk. When I told him they wouldn't survive, he said, "It's fine, they'll just take turns breathing." I have no idea what that meant. The next morning I had to fish out 12 dead goldfish, while he blamed the negative office energy. My supervisor believed that if you spoke a foreign language near a computer, it could infect it with a language virus. He made a rule that all conversations in the office had to be in English only, despite us having a very diverse team and many international clients. He claimed he was protecting our digital borders. We were a travel agency. My boss was obsessed with synergy. He thought if he combined two good things, he'd get a super thing. This led him to mix coffee and Red Bull in the office coffee pot one morning as a productivity surprise for everyone. The result was a disgusting, bitter sludge that made half the office sick and the other half so jittery they couldn't type. To save money on paper, my boss implemented a rule that we had to print on both sides of the page. That's a normal rule. However, he also insisted that to save ink, the text on the back should be printed directly over the text on the front. He couldn't grasp that this would make both sides completely unreadable. He called it high-density information packing. I worked at a warehouse where the manager thought he could motivate us through fear. He bought a huge, terrifying clown mask and would randomly jump out from behind shelves to scare the laziness out of us. He stopped after he scared a forklift driver so badly that he dropped an entire pallet of expensive electronics. The driver quit on the spot. My boss heard that brainstorming in a different environment can spark creativity. So, he took the entire marketing team to a children's soft play area. We had to have a serious meeting about quarterly earnings, while sitting in a ball pit and crawling through plastic tubes. He kept yelling, "Think outside the box," while getting stuck in a slide. My boss didn't understand time zones. He had a weekly 7 a.m. conference call with our London office. He was based in California. He would get furious that no one from the UK team ever showed up, not realizing it was 3 p.m. for them and they had already gone home for the day. He accused them of being lazy and unprofessional for months. To promote team unity, my boss made us all take a personality test. Then he rearranged the entire office seating chart so that all the introverts were on one side of the room and all the extroverts were on the other. It created this bizarre divided office where one side was dead silent and the other was a non-stop party. Productivity hit an all-time low. My boss thought that the little silica gel packets that come in packages were flavor crystals to keep products tasting fresh. He once ripped one open and sprinkled it into the office water cooler, thinking he was enhancing the water's freshness. The maintenance guy had to come and flush the whole system after we stopped him.